1946, Virginia, Brazil. A UFO crash lands, setting the whole town into a frenzy. 3 girls just so happen to have a moment of contact with a strange being. The U.S. government finds out and covers everything up. Craft, material, bodies. All evidence is quickly recovered, never to be seen again. Since 1947, the military has been covering up all evidence of humanity being visited by a non-human intelligence. All documents have been sealed, lost, or damaged beyond recognition, leaving the U.S. government free to keep this pivotal information from the entire human race. But what gives them the right to make decisions on behalf of all of humanity? Acting as a god above all gods, they alter our reality, making most doubt their very perceptions. But we give them the power to rule, not the other way around. Some that have been brave enough to stand out and speak the truth have done just that. And now, we, the people, want the whole truth.
Mission Control, please be informed there is a Santa Claus. Oh God, you wouldn't believe it. There are other craft out here, lined up on the far side of the crater's edge. They're on the moon with us. They're on the moon, watching us. Look at that thing. There's a whole fleet of them. Those are giant things. No. This is not an optical illusion. No one is going to believe this.
We are ready. The whole world is ready for true disclosure, without holding back any information. We can decide how we see our reality on our own, without Uncle Sam's hand. Stop holding our civilization back, treating us like children. The truth will reveal itself, and you won't be able to stop it or deny it forever. The truth is inevitable. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is inevitable. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dimensions of Reality podcast with me, Marquise, aka Dr. Door. You all know me. It has been quite a while since I've uploaded a live video, so I'm sure some of you are going to be like, what's going on? Where did this come from? Well, I met someone very interesting, and obviously there's a lot going on right now in the news. Big news. Drones in New Jersey, my home state, my birthing state, I should say. By birthing state, there's no gender here. It's just a state. But basically, there's some really weird stuff going on in New Jersey and across the U.S. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So today the main theme is going to be about David. Again, I met David as a friend. David is in a personal situation that I can't mention. Of course, I don't want to talk about where I work for obvious reasons. So let's talk about these drones first, though. So here's the news on that. Since mid-November, residents have reported clusters of large drones, some described as big as SUVs, some as big as buses, hovering over sensitive areas like military installations and critical infrastructure, even water systems, and something as small as people's homes. All over TikTok, over Twitter or X, over Blue Sky, which I'm on Blue Sky too. The FBI is actively investigating these incidents, urging the public to share any photos or videos to aid in identifying the operators or following them back to wherever they're coming from, because they have no idea where they're coming from. The last report I heard throughout the day was that they are coming out of the ocean. We'll get to that too. The situation has escalated to the point where U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal suggested that these drones should be shot down. Probably not the best idea, but he said they should be shot down if necessary, especially when flying over airports or military installations, which is problematic given not too long ago, we had the Chinese balloon situation where they're like, Chinese balloon travels all across U.S. Nobody has any idea that happened. NORAD doesn't say anything. Nobody says anything. And all of a sudden we're like, we just found out. Clearly something else was going on there, but we're not going to speculate too much. We'll let the data reveal itself over time. Despite these measures, the lack of clear information has led to various theories. You already know what mine is, including potential connections to foreign adversaries or even non-human intelligence, extraterrestrials, aliens, ladies and gentlemen, possibly. Local authorities remain vigilant, and the public is advised to report any suspicious drone activity. That's wild. And it's so crazy that even my kids have come home from school and said, Daddy, have you heard about the drones and the lights over New Jersey? That probably was the coolest, also the most terrifying thing. We've been here before, all the way back since the 60s and even before, where there are mass sightings all over the country, all over the world. Hopefully, this isn't anything eminent. Hashtag Lou Elizondo. But if it is, we've been talking about it. So let's bring David in, get his thoughts, also hear about what he has to say about his experiences with the phenomena. And yes, Scott, my guy, is in the chat. What's up, Scott? What's up? Good to see you in the chat, man. So let's get this started. So David, I'm gonna bring you in. David, what's up, man? How you doing?
Very good. Thank you for having me. So do you want to talk about them first, or you want me to do my backstory, or how do you want to do this?
Well, we'll get into the drone stuff later. Want to hear about you at some point. We'll kind of naturally just get into the whole drone situation, unless you want to talk about it
Okay.
first. I'll give you the floor, man.
Okay. So I'll start with me. Hi, my name is David. I'm a UFO experiencer, empath, artist. Got the clairs and some other stuff. So I started back in when I was 14. All my senses came alive. Everything awakened. I could start, start. I would have dreams about meeting people or places, and they would happen. I would know stuff that was going to happen. It would just be as soon as I would meet someone, I would instantly know nearly everything about them. It was overwhelming. I couldn't handle it for a while, so I shut it down for years. And fast forward to about, I want to say about 2002, 2003. I'm having a really bad case of insomnia. It lasted about 2.5 years. Um, and one night I'm like, it's September or October, maybe, yeah, mid-September, end of October. And I was at the time living on Long Island. So I'm like, I'm not sleeping. I'm like, let me go outside and rake the lawn. Maybe some exercise will put me to sleep. I start going outside, raking the lawn. I feel someone watching me. I look around. I'm thinking maybe it's an animal or something like that. It's nocturnal. Fine. Keep going. I don't see anything. Go back to raking. Then all of a sudden, I still feel like I'm being watched. And I look around, and 50 feet above my house, I see a ship. Now, in this ship, there are two beings, and the third one felt like a purpose-built animal. I later found out that that's exactly what it was. Some of the ships are organic, and this one was created for that one.
Hold on one second, my friend. I apologize for interrupting you. There's a lot that you said that I think is very important to kind of zero in on. I don't want it to escape us. The first thing is that you mentioned that when you meet people, you get kind of this like flood of information about them that reveals things about them, correct? The interesting thing
Yes,
about what you
sometimes it's
said
overwhelming.
was, yeah, and the funny thing is when we first met, and please don't mention where, for obvious reasons, but when we first met, you had that experience with me. Can you tell people what you saw when you first saw me?
Yes, there were two creatures surrounding you, and they were telling me, "Look at this
Which,
guy right here." And
yeah,
I was like, "I'm
two
here for other
grays,
stuff. I have to do other stuff."
two grays.
Um, I, I wouldn't call them like full grays, but they did have large heads and three fingers. The ones I saw were more of a bluish gray, like a slate gray, than the actual pale gray ones that I've encountered before. There's been very many different ones, so I couldn't tell you the exact name of them. I only looked at them for like a few seconds and was like, "Nah, man, I have something else to do. I'll come back and talk to him later."
Yeah, that's super interesting because that's exactly the kind of creature that I saw when I had my experiences, which is why that's the first thing that sparked my interest in you was like, oh my, well, the first thing was the conversation I had with your parents. This was our first interaction, and I thought to myself, wow, I wonder what you saw. And you said you saw those. Now the description is even more kind of startling because that's what I saw. The bluish gray creatures in my cousin's house surrounding me, and that's exactly it. The description you gave is what they were. So that's really crazy. The other thing you mentioned was that you had seen something in your home at your home 50 feet above the ground, which is again, I had a similar experience, similar minus the I didn't have any insight into what it was. You had insight into what you were looking at. And the funny thing about what you said is that the last year we've been kind of given this possibility that some of these craft are organic, which I've never heard that before in my life until the last year. And then I meet you, and you're talking about seeing these things that could be organic. That is interesting.
Well, they
So
were.
please expand.
Yeah. So I start, waving to the beings. I say hello, what's going on. The feeling I get from the two beings is they didn't want to do their equivalent of paperwork. Apparently, when they contact someone, they have to let somebody know, and they didn't really want to do that. And from their point of view, I get it. Who wants to contact, notice a paperwork about a weirdo doing raking his yard at 1 o'clock in the morning? I get that. So I said hello to them, and I realized they weren't going to do anything, so I went back to raking my lawn. And they stayed there for about 10, 15 minutes. So after that, I went in to get something to drink. I came out, they were gone. I said, okay, fine, I'll come back tomorrow. So I come out tomorrow, same time, no one's there. So that was my first conscious contact with ETs. That happened about 2001, 2003. So we're going to fast forward to about nothing much ever happened until about 2014, 2015. It was when I started getting into ETs again. So I went online, I looked around, and I realized this was not for me. There was so much contradiction, so much rabbit hole, so much propaganda, so much just people having misinformation. I was like, I need my own information. I can't deal with this. So I start looking around, trying to figure out what to do. And then I come across the CE5 protocols. Those are the ones that will help you contact ETs peacefully. I do them for a couple weeks. I think like 3 to 6 weeks. I do them. I feel nice. Nothing happens. I'm like, okay, so I'm ready to end it. Not just like I'm saying, there's no point more doing this. I've been doing this for like that long. So all of a sudden, I stopped doing it, and I'm downstairs in my old house, and I'm in the basement, and I'm online, and all of a sudden, my computer screen goes black, and I feel somebody watching me, over the corner of my over my shoulder. I turn around, and there's a 7-foot tall mantis standing right there. I wasn't scared of him. I was just kind of annoyed that he showed up and turned off my screen. He was talking to me for a little bit. They're very telepathic. I can describe him as a scientist, very intellectual. I later found out that he was my grandfather. That's what he identified as. And there were some other ones too. There was another female mantis who I regularly deal with, and there was a smaller one, but I mainly dealt with him. And he then projected a hologram all around my room of where I was, of where he was. Sorry. And I was walking around with my room, but I could still feel everything in my room, so the space didn't change. It was just a hologram. And I could feel like my table, because it was just like an overlay, so I could make sure I touched it to make sure it was real. And he talked to me for a little bit. So we spent about a few minutes talking. Now, the mantises are very telepathic, very spiritual, but their problem with them is they have a very intense presence. Like, I can't talk to them for a very long time because my mind literally gets overwhelmed. The most I can talk to them at that time was maybe a few minutes, maybe nothing more than 5. Over the years since that happened, it's gotten a lot easier for me to communicate with them and be able to have like solid conversations, 10, 20 minutes, and do a bunch of other stuff. But at the time, it was always like, it feels like if you're in a crowd and all of a sudden you get someone staring at you, that's what it feels like, but it's way more intense. But it's not malicious. It's just that's some ET species are that evolved that you literally have a difficult time interacting with them. They can modulate that self so they don't actually hurt you too bad, because they're, like I said, most of them are very benevolent. They're very spiritual. They want humanity to do well. The message I always get from every ET, positive ET, I should say, that I've encountered is, first, please be responsible for your actions. If you decide to contact an ET, you are responsible for that. Second, don't operate in fear. Stop hurting yourselves, stop hurting each other, and stop hurting the planet. That's the general message that they always gave. Like when they was like, and they wanted us to tell us a story. So we do all that, and I'm working with the mantis, and the mantises decide, they say, we're going to come back more and more. I'm like, okay, fine. So over the next year or so, they come back, every couple of days just to check on me. They help me with my art. They help me with some emotional issues I was going through. I wasn't always the best receptive to them. So a couple of times I would tell them, just, go away. Are we allowed to curse on your program or not? Because
you can curse. I'm not on the radio, so you can curse. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just so I told them, I'm not interested, go away, something like that. And over the time, they would come and help me. They have this machine. It's a console on it. It's a console, and one of the symbols on there, that when they press it, it's a triangle, and it'll beam something directly to inside my head. So if they push that button, I have like 15 minutes before I have to do an art piece. Because what happens is it literally beams it into my head and it expands to the point where it actually causes pain that I actually physically have to get it out of me. And some of the arts
Mm.
come out very beautiful. So one of the things they're working with me. They also help me with the music. The Mantis teacher, I call her Anne. She's a very good music teacher. She's been teaching me to play piano. Everyone seems to like it. So the first time we're talking and you come back, I'm like, oh, cool. I just had an experience about that. And I didn't think anything of it because it didn't seem weird to me at all. And so I just kept going and they would come more and more. And they would like tell me, so they told me, honestly, they told me so much stuff. I wish I would have wrote it down. I just was not, paying attention as much as I should have. And they were just there. So they're talking to me and we're going good. And one time I'm astral traveling with them. They skipping ahead. So yeah, we're going to chronological. So I'm going with them. They're working with me for about a year. So I'm getting better, doing whatever I'm supposed to do. About a year after dealing with them, the machine goes on and it's too much. They turned it on too high, and I was on the ground screaming. I thought I was going to die. I thought my head was going to explode. And I'm screaming for help. Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. The male mantis shows up, and he says, what did he say? He says, he gives me this half-assed apology. And he says, it was an oversight. I go, that was no oversight. I almost died. My brain. And he was like, so I said, we're done. We're done. Get off my planet. And he's like, whatever invitation I invited you, I'm rescinding it. No, I don't want to talk to you anymore. We're done. So a year goes by. I'm in a better place mentally, physically. I'm doing everything I can. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe it was an oversight. This kind of maybe a big deal. Maybe I should try again. So one of the things I can do is I can astral travel, and I can put my soul in another body. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the first, so I went into a meditative state, and I remember what Anne felt like. Anne is the female mantis. That's not her real name, but that's what she told me to call her. So I remembered what she felt like. I astral traveled to where she was. Now, where she was she was apparently in a meeting. I popped through a table, and there were several different species all around the table. I popped through the table. I saw Anne. I was very happy to see her. And she starts going, no, not now, not now, not now. Then there's two reptilian beings who had iguana-shaped heads, who look more like iguanas, who start freaking out. There were other beings. One was very long-faced, a couple like very, very, very long-faced. A couple of them were ethereal and didn't have bodies. A couple were science, and there were a couple of other militaries, but I couldn't see everyone. So I freaked. I realized I wasn't supposed to be there, and I left. So after that, in the next 3 days, I had I could see and sense like people were going through my house. They were checking everything. They would like roll over. You could just feel the intensity of it. And on the third day, I'm downstairs in the basement watching TV, and I'm in a chair, and all of a sudden I feel someone looking down on me, and I look up, and there is a 7-foot tall dog man in a military uniform. His head was shaped more like a Doberman, like that length.
Yeah. Yep.
And
I
he
remember
looks
that.
down
Yep.
and he looks down at me, and he says, "This is what I was called for." I looked back up to him and said, "I'm sorry, I won't do it again." He leaves. Then Anne comes over right after, and she starts talking to me when we're catching up, and they start working with me more. One time I astral traveled to where the mantises had what they call the navel of the universe.
Hmm.
What it was, basically, what I saw was a giant room full of printing presses and football field sized sheets of orange and pink consciousness.
Hmm.
It was truly amazing how big this stuff was. And there was a mantis working the machines. And I had asked the mantis, I says, why do they have to be so big? And he says, because they have to be that big to get through the dimensions. And I said,
Hmm.
oh, so almost like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, in that scene where they had that giant chocolate bar and they had to make
Yeah.
it transported smaller through TV, and he smiled, but I mean they don't really have like he telepathically smiled, but he said yeah, and then he goes, "Would you like to try it?" And I go, "No, I don't want to screw it up." And so I stayed there and I did that, watched that for a little bit. I traveled a couple other places with them. Where else did I go? I should have wrote it down. I had a lot happen in the last couple of years. So, if you have any questions, just throw it right in. So,
there are quite a few questions. Let's take it back a little bit because you've encountered several beings. You mentioned that you think in your experience, many of them are benevolent, at least the ones that directly contact you. That's curious. So there are, at least in
mhm.
your experience, there are mostly benevolent experiences with you, aside from the one that was traumatizing with the near death, if you will, or the feeling of nearly dying. Why do you think? Do you think that
Oh,
there's
there's
like
been a
bad
lot of
ones
bad
too?
ones too. I'm just starting the story, but that was my first thing. I've had many bad encounters with them, so there's a lot more
Okay.
out there.
And the mantis ones I've heard. So there's like this idea of them being the in the hierarchy of beings. They're one of the top hierarchy of beings. Are the ones that kind of control even the grays and other ones. The mantids are kind of high up there. What other physical manifestations have you seen in terms of the beings?
I've seen various degrees of reptilian beings. I've met with Draco. I've met with spiritual beings. Recently, I just encountered a few weeks ago 2 foot tall little humanoid things that they were really cool people. I mean, we were channeling. I don't like doing channeling because I've had bad experiences because I found out a lot of stuff in there was not who they were supposed to be. They said they were, so they can
Ironic.
manipulate themselves very easily in that kind of field. So,
Yep,
but there
I
was
heard the same
in
thing.
this group. I was like, yeah. So we were channeling in this group, and she goes, I said, I've had a bad experience. And she goes, it's okay. We got our shields up. We're only going to be attracting the right types of beings. And I'm like, okay. So we give it a shot, and we meet these little beings, and they're about 2 feet tall, humanoid. They have pupils, very nice features, very nice people, just generally good beings. They said that they would, we would think of them as elves. I said, you guys look more like gnomes to me, but they were like, they didn't have a beard or anything. They just got more of a gnome size than an elf. I guess the Lord of the Rings screwed me up for that one. Um, but we're talking to them for a little bit, and they gave me a couple messages of what was happening from apparently the galactic. There, there's several galactic groups that form organizations. Like I think there's a 10, and there's some other ones. I forgot which one we were talking to, but they basically told me, garbage out. There's a lot of. Let me read the message. Where is it? What are they? Oh, here it is. Yeah, so this is what we channeled them. So this is from 11/6/24. They gave a message of garbage out, patience. There is much to be done. It will be done. Many secrets come to light, unpleasant truths revealed, but necessary to move forward. And they want us to return to center. Like not just like
Hey, David, real quick. This is really important because audience, everyone, this is really important. There was a do you know about the crop circle that had the message engraved into it? It had like a disc. I can't think of I
no.
gotta I'll find it here and see if I can put up on the screen for you. There was a disc. Let me just give me one moment, please, before we continue. Uh,
Yeah.
I will find this. This is really important. What you're saying is it's just very ironic. Here it is. I'm gonna pull this up, okay? So I'm gonna share my screen. Just this one web browser here, crop circle. So if everybody can see, there you go. Can you see this here? So in the image, in case you're
Yes.
listening and you're not watching, the image shows an image of what is a typical gray, the taller ones, by the way. That shape and form is one of the taller grays, not the short ones they call the worker bees. This one's a taller one that, at least in the encounters that people have, they are considered even more intelligent, more autonomous. They have more autonomy and more free will, if you will, or whatever you want to call that. They and are in the hierarchy, they're higher than the small ones. The disk next to it was programmed, or was deciphered by a computer programmer, and the message was this. Let me see if I can pull it up on the site. The site says much pain but still time, Believe there is good out there. Beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. We oppose deception. Conduit closing. Very, very interesting that you would say you have a very similar, not exact, but similar message yourself, in the form of contact, because that's been told before. The idea that there's deceptive ones, that we got to be careful with these broken promises. There's also the allegation that the U.S. government has been involved with communication with some of these beings and have made a deal. The U.S. government has made a deal with them, and it's
They
not in
have.
our favor. It makes me wonder if that's a part of it. What are your thoughts on that? Is there a connection?
Well, yes, the U.S. government has made deals with them in the past. So has other countries as well. Um, some of from what I understand, a lot of the contracts that were made to let the stuff keep going are expiring soon, and a lot of
That's
the people now are at a spiritual or a point where they're able to handle the fact that we're not the only ones around. So they're going to be it's going to be happening in the next couple of years, no matter what. And that's what I mean. I know we're jumping ahead, but the Jersey drones, that's just to get people used to it. I mean, the whole thing for the last 5 to 10 years has basically been a soft disclosure. The ETs are tired of trying to deal with them through the politicians, and they're going directly to people, which is what they should have been doing in the first place. And I had asked the manager many times, I was like, why don't you just, come down here and just stop all this, going around side doors and talking to all the weirdos, and just come down, say hello to everybody, and take up an embassy, then leave. And they go, we can't do it that way. And I said, why? And they go, because there's rules against it. But what we
hmm,
can do is have people reincarnate or become part of it, and then we can go in that way. Because there is
hmm,
it's a stupid law that I don't like, and I disagree with them completely on it. And I said, well, why didn't you come by in the 1950s, right after World War II? That would have been a great time for everything was destroyed. You could have come by, help said, look, you're not the only ones. Congratulations on defeating the evil and everything like that. And they go, we tried, and it didn't work. At the
hmm,
time, we couldn't get past because at the time, your people. He's talking about us. You were still very much a racially based society.
hmm,
You didn't get things done to start until like the 60s and the 70s when everything started changing. Then after that, you kind of dropped the ball. And it got better for a while, but now things are getting better again. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. It goes, these things take a long time to do because you go, our existence challenge is a direct, what do they say? Something about, it pisses off a lot of people in power because it makes sure that because they don't like that, like the whole power structure. But if everyone knows that we're a galactic family, and the planet's alive, and we all have this stuff, it kind of makes it harder to do all the wars. It's that simple.
hmm. Yeah. Oh man, that's rough because I mean, it makes sense that there's a rule because clearly the way that they're I agree with the idea that there is a self disclosure. It has been said by people like again Elizondo, David Grush even mentioned this. Tom DeLong, hate or love him, I think he's right. He's been proven to be right, and others that there is a soft disclosure being implemented right now. It's been going in place since 2017. That there since they the report in the New York Times about the secret government program and so forth, and it's interesting to me that you have this perspective. Yet when I first talked to you, David, you didn't know about a lot of these names, which really baffled me because I learned
I still
some of the
don't. I
things
still haven't read anything about them.
again. It's that blows my mind because you're literally echoing exactly what's been talked about in these circles, in the media and so forth, without ever having contact with that information. So that's why we're here now. This is why we're here because guys, in case you don't know, why would I interview somebody who's an experiencer? You know that I do this all the time. But why David specifically? Because I think David's experiences are real. I think that the information he's given he's having some kind of direct contact, and I think that the audience is going to be convinced by the end of the conversation that that's the case. I think you're one of the very few people I've encountered, like Dolly, for example. You kind of give me Dolly vibes, where she's had this direct contact of
Yes, I
which you've
spoke with Kelly a few times before.
yeah.
Yeah, she helped me
Again,
out with
this
one
is
of the problems I was having.
she helped me. She's helped me out too. She said she said some funny things. She's talk about using profanity. One of the best quotes she's ever said. Oh man, now I can't remember the quote. It was something like uh, life's a bitch and then you die, but at least you don't have to die stupid. and something along the lines, and it was the best quote of all time. Like, you don't want to die dumb. Like, pay attention, wake up, look around you, something is happening. And to your point, David, about the drones, well, we are jumping ahead, but let's get into it. You think that's related to the self disclosure?
I think some of it is, yeah. I'm a little concerned about the military thing. Like in general, I would kind of avoid those bases just because of how trigger happy they've been in the past. But from what I understand, it's just people letting people know the whole thing is full, and it's not just ETs that are out there. We also have interdimensional beings that are on
Mm,
Earth, that have been here on Earth the entire time. They've been waiting for us to reach a certain level of vibration so they can, just say hello. I mean, they're not going to give us, full access to the technology right away. We still have to grow. Just because we've gotten to a certain point doesn't mean we're going to get it all at once. But we can be
right.
on that port where we're supposed to be instead of what we're doing now.
So you also said that contracts have ended. Have you ever heard of the book Chains of the Sea?
No.
Chat, you guys pay attention. You guys need to. I'm gonna post a link to. I found the audiobook version of this several $100 short story. Several hundreds of dollars is what this short story cost if you look at it on Amazon. Found the audiobook version of it on YouTube. I'll post that in the link of the comment section in this video when it's posted. Um, Essentially, in this, Lou Elizondo was asked, "What's the closest, I guess, fiction story or book or anything like that that would represent the phenomena?" And he said, "Chains of the Sea." Now, when I first heard that, I'm thinking, "Oh, this is going to be kind of a stupid sci-fi thing that's got a hidden message." It was not, guys. In Chains of the Sea, long story short, there are these creatures that live on Earth. We can't see them, but some people can. There's a child that can see them, and they interact with him while there's a landing of these interdimensional beings that land on the Earth. There was a contract that ended. They made a deal with humans and with these beings that we can't see that are the true owners of the Earth. I believe they're the true owners of the Earth. They don't specify, but the contract has ended, and now they need to make a new contract. And it's interesting that you mentioned that there's a contract that's ended. Again, these connections are blowing my mind. That's why we're here. So I will present to you that in that book, though, there is a terror about this contract ending, and they don't specify what the react. They kind of end on a very like, what's this mean? But they say that they use the artificial intelligence to bypass humanity, to do a deal with them, to create a machine that essentially stops the world. Now, on top of this, there's this magnetosphere change on the Earth as well that global scientists are saying is could be a big problem, could be nothing. We don't know. All these things together make me wonder: is this unfolding right now?
Yes, it is. Because when
Is
I was
it bad?
telling, I was beating you before, was telling you before, one of the experiences I've had from is with the Greys, the tall Greys. Now, people will say, the Greys are us from the future. They're not. They're their own thing. The Greys went too far. They literally made them. Out of all the ETs and anything I've ever encountered, those were the only ones I would ever consider alien. They felt spiritually sterile and physically sterile. They are. That people were saying, oh, well, they're asking for our DNA to help cure diseases. No, they're not. That they're asking for your DNA is so they can hybridize themselves so they can get into the new level of the matrix because they're not coming into the next one. Apparently, what's going on in the universe is that we're all the entire universe is about to go up in vibration, and that means some species will not make it. Humans are going to be there. Some of them are going to be there, and some other ETs, but all the species that are interstellar and that are aware of this are trying to their best to save their species and get it in that way. So if they get in, what I'm saying is if they take some of your DNA or my DNA and then they hybridize it with one of them and they put it on the planet, that's a way for them saying it. And I always tell people, don't give away your power. Don't give away your DNA. You are sovereign beings, and just it's not worth it. I mean, they did it to themselves. And now I've had problems with the Greys a couple of times. I don't usually like dealing with them just because of how alien they feel to me. The first time I met the Greys was actually last year. I had met this guy online. We began talking, and he had asked me, he was into ETs and stuff, and he had asked me to meet his friend. was like, okay, fine. So I met his friend online, and prior to this, I had no experience or desire about other world, other Earths, parallel universes. I didn't care. For the most part, my life sucked. I didn't care about someone else's life in another world. I was like, so whatever. So I met this guy, and I'm talking to him for like 10 minutes, and he said that the Greys treated him very nicely, and they were always asking for stuff, and they treated him like a king, and they said, but they were taking a lot from him. And I
Mm.
realized as I was talking to him, each time they took him, they were trying to create a new timeline. He was one of those few people who can generate one of those timelines, or have access to go into another dimension very easily. So he was doing that, and then another group was coming and taking him and putting him back and fixing the damage that was done. Then another group was coming back to do it. So there was three different groups taking this guy, playing hot potato with this guy, trying to fix him. And I talked to this guy for about 2 hours, and I just told him, I said, listen, I don't think this is right, but it's up to you. You're an adult. You can do what you need to do. Just remember, you can say no at any time. That's the biggest thing I want people to understand is when you have an ET interaction, you can say no to anything. You don't have to agree to it, even if they trick you or something like that. Some of them they will. We'll get into that a little later. But after about that, I went to sleep later that night. And two tall Greys tried to manifest into my room. They couldn't manifest into my room. They were screaming, "Leave him alone, he's ours." I said, "No, he's not. He's his own person." And they were yelling at me, and then all of a sudden, my speech pattern changed. I began speaking like the mantises do. The mantises are very laser focused. They are 100% intense, but peaceful. I want to be very clear about that. But that backed them off. So a couple hours later, I wake up and I have to go to the bathroom. And at the end of the hall, I see a tall Grey there, and he is ready to come at me, and he's charging at me, and he's coming at me, he's screaming. And I says, okay, I guess we're doing this. So I summon my shields up, and as soon as he touches me, he dissolves. He couldn't hold on, and I just looked around and said, I thought so. Went to the bathroom, went back to bed. That was two of my experiences with the Greys. There was some of the more hostile ones, but it was just like, and that was also my other first experience with other dimensions. I could literally see they took him, he was cocooned, and a new dimension or a new reality he came from, and so that was that. Any questions?
That is a lot. I don't even know what to say about that one because honestly, the whole idea of timelines, I feel like that's a whole. We should probably pin that for another conversation. I don't feel like
Okay,
we can squeeze that into what I want to do today. That's actually really important. I want to. Is it okay if we save that for another conversation?
yeah, that's fine. Because like I said, because I did a couple other stuff, so I don't know how much we want to cover. You just want to do the mantises? Do we want to do the
Well,
just SST,
I
or are
want to
we
give
doing
an
any of that stuff, or are
overall.
we just doing?
Yeah, I want to give an overall of your experiences and your perspective. Um, because I don't have a lot of time today. We will definitely be doing, if it's okay with you, more of these conversations just to kind of flesh out all the experiences you've had. I want to get into all of it, especially a lot of the nuances of like these. There's the mantids and the Greys and these other experiences. What these timelines mean. What's going on. There's a lot there. I mean, you think you could squeeze it into an hour? I don't think that's possible. There's too much there. Um, so
No,
then
probably
okay.
not.
My next,
Um,
so then yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say about the mantises. So quick history. They came from Earth first. They were said they were one of the first beings to evolve and leave. So
Mm.
there were a bunch of other species on Earth for a while. They were one of the first ones to come make it and go out stellar. Their main thing is they like actually helping people grow spiritually and stuff like that. Earth itself, they've told me many times, is a school for the soul. That's what they have been very clear
Mm.
on. They were very clear on that. They said the Earth is a school for the soul.
We're failing.
And
We're
I'm
failing the
like, well,
school.
that sucks. Yeah, like, well, and it said, well, you're not failing. It's just things are moving better now. There were some problems, but you're getting better. So the Earth is also going up in vibration as well. So it's just the universe, then the Earth. So then we have us up here. So we're all trying to get over here. Then we have all these other entities that are literally fighting for control of old power structures that are not going to be around anymore.
Is there like a supreme being that's kind of like a god or an intelligence that's overlooking all these things? Is there or there it kind of seems like there's like a free
Yeah.
for all.
It seems like that. There's a lot of chaos. But there is a plan. There is a clock, and there are aspects of the divine male, the divine female. But there's also like the eternal ones too. So it's a macro and a micro thing. It just I'm not doing a great job of explaining it. I'm sorry, I didn't sleep very well last night.
It's okay, man. It's okay.
No,
I'm
so
I'm
yeah,
just
so
glad
there
you're
is a
able.
supreme order of things. Yeah, there is a supreme order of things. There is a hierarchy. There's also the angels and the other things. I mean, most ETs are telepathic or psychic awareness, so they understand that. It's just us that has been shut off. And part of the reason we've been shut off is because we had to learn how to experience stuff by our own self. Like they have the access of having all the knowledge at once. We have to go through it linearly
Hmm.
because we have to experience it. And if you know everything's coming, it changes the experience. It's like if you have a surprise party coming for you and you go, "Oh, act surprise!" Ooh, it's not a real reaction, is it?
Right, right, right. Yep, yep. Takes away
I mean,
from
I know
the.
that
It takes
sounds
away from
crappy,
that.
but that's what they told me.
Feeling. Yeah.
Hmm. What
So
else? So the mantis, yeah,
I got it. So real quick, there's that's actually really interesting because I know, like, having children, there are some things they have to learn on their own. If I were to give them the answer, then it would ruin the learning experience for them, and they wouldn't actually truly understand what it was that needs to be learned, the
same way
lesson that
here.
needs to be taught. So although I don't like that idea, I
Same
actually,
way.
unfortunately, life says that's just how it is. That really is how it is. It's unfortunate, but it is.
Yeah, yeah. Because we experience time linearly. Some species don't do that. They have it all at once or not at all, which is a weird concept. I understand, and I have a hard time explaining it, even though I've done a bunch of time travel crap, which we'll get into in another episode.
Yeah, I think you're in good company though. Like a lot of the chat, some of the people in chat have had experiences. These ideas actually, I'm late to the game, so to speak. I've actually learning about a lot of these other things. I never wanted to get involved with what they call the woo. I never wanted to, but it wasn't until I did encounter people that I thought were intelligent, like yourself, that were level headed. They weren't, crazy people just trying to make some money. That I realized this is real. Like people are putting themselves out there. They're really putting their reputation. They're putting themselves on the line because they know they'll be ridiculed, and you're still doing it. And I respect that. So I'm late, but my audience is not. They've been into this stuff for forever. I'm just putting these things on the platform that can be shared with people.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing too. Because when I used to tell people about the stuff I would experience, they would always tell me, "Hey, you're full of crap," or "Shut up," or "Just tune me out." Or the most common answer was, "Okay, that's fine. I still got to put stuff on the food. I got to still pay my bills and feed my kids." And I'm
Yep,
like,
yep, that's
that's
wild.
probably more valid than what I'm saying. Yeah, it's more important to you, and that's a real thing we have. Is like we can have these great amazing experiences of all these beings and shared wisdom, and but we still have to feed our families and take care of stuff and take the garbage out and all the other stuff. And it's like,
Yeah. What do you do, man? I mean, I try to, probably one of the most frustrating things for me is having to explain why these things are important to the human race. Because some people will say, like you say, that it's the mundane things, the day to day, that are more important because they're immediate and they're pressing versus the things that are coming maybe one day in the year, maybe one day in 5 years, maybe one day in 50 years. We don't know. To the average person, that's not actionable intelligence, to use a military term. It's not actionable. There's nothing they could do with that information right now. All it does is give them stress and anxiety and fear of the future and what's to come, or uncertainty, which nobody wants to live with the feeling of uncertainty. We, however, have decided, we've chosen this path to be aware and to know and to feel uncertain and to have a little bit of anxiety about the future and so forth. So, I mean, it's a choice for us, but not for everyone. I get where that sentiment comes from, man. I understand. I understand it.
and that goes back to why they won't force them like a public disclosure because people at the time were not ready. That's just the
Yep.
sad
No.
truth. That even though people were like clamoring for it, there were some of them. The vast majority of people were not ready to handle that.
No. No. So on a final note, let's because I do, again, I have a very short time today. We will definitely be having a couple more conversations if you're up to it, when you have the time, when we can match up my schedule with yours. My family situation is quite large family. But there is one more thing I want to talk about, and at least for now, when it comes to your perspective about the phenomena, what do you think is happening? I mean, your experiences have kind of guided you to understand a lot about what's going on underneath the veil, so to speak. What do you think is happening to us? I mean, you say that there's a contract that's over. There's vibrational. There's a change
We're
in
evolving to a
vibration.
higher level of consciousness.
That's the ultimate goal. What happens next, though?
Like I said,
Do we lose some of us?
yeah, we're just evolving to another level. This stuff has always been going on.
Some of us.
These
Some
beings
of
have
us.
always
You
been
said.
there. The Yeah, no, I'm saying, but in general, it's happening more and more to the point where the ones that will denying it or can't process it will be such in a minority now that everyone else will be like, they're right there. How can you not see that?
Mm.
And people I talk to about that say they'll have to either finish this life and be reincarnated until they can process it, or it's just what's going to happen because it's happening right now, and I understand it's going to be scary, but it's a very necessary thing because once we're open to all this and have access to our true selves, we can stop all this crap that we're doing to the planet, stop it to each other, and we can actually make something golden. Because what I saw, what they showed me was a golden future, where everything
Mm.
where we lived in an egalitarian society and people got the care they needed and they didn't have to go around doing horrible things. People were actually like, oh, we can help you with that so you don't have to do that. That's the world I wanted to get to,
Okay,
and that's what they showed me was going to happen. But
there will be trouble beforehand, though. There's going to be strife. There's going to be some turmoil before that.
yeah, there's going to be a lot of growing pains in the next 18 months. They said that after that, that's when they think the final push is going to be on. And once they
Mm.
showed me in 2026, there's going to be a very, very massive storm, like planet wide, and it's going to change everything. After that, they said what they showed me after that was the year 27 when we start rebuilding. There's going to be a new internet YouTube version. It's going to be either called Prometheus or Prometheus themed, and that one will catch. And that one will be a go. Everyone will love that one. About 80 to 90% of the population will be on that one within a year. So by 28, that'll be the most dominant form of thing around that, and everyone seems to love that one, from the creators to everyone else. But they said the
Well, hold
storm
on.
has to
Does that mean
come, and the
so the
image that they
storm is a
always gave.
physical storm, an actual storm that's going to like
I'm
cause
sorry.
chaos, destruction?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, planet wide.
Hmm. Will there be loss of life?
Yes. In
Lots.
the future, they showed me there is a lot less humans.
Hmm.
Anywhere from between 2 to 5 billion.
Hmm.
But I know that's a lot. But what happens is it gets replaced with other ETs and other interstellar beings. And that happens in the next rebuilding cycle. I
It's
should
ironic that
probably
you
be more
used the year,
careful
year
about that. I'm sorry.
2027. No, no, I think that's. I mean, it was a clarifying question. We got that, but the thing is, there has been a lot of talk about 2027, and that there was. I mean, Lou Elizondo, the guy who was working for ATIP, OSAP, whatever, ATIP. We'll go with ATIP. He said that he wrote a book called Imminent. Like that we're going to be encountering some kind of a something. We don't. He didn't say specifically, but he did say in one of his last interviews, time is not a luxury we can afford. A quote by him, that we need to like get this information out, get people on board, because time is not a luxury we can afford, and people need to know about this. I'm not sure if who knows if he's referring to what you might be referring to. Maybe something else. He's not privy to the insight that you have, for sure, probably not. But maybe he does. Maybe this is the insight, because he's not the only one. John Ramirez, CIA, the guys who was CIA person, he said that 2027 there's going to be like full on. Hey, we're not alone. You can't deny it. Undeniable. That's a very interesting timeline that you have there for somebody who doesn't know this stuff. The people that are talking about this stuff, you have insight into things that have been kind of released to the public recently.
I had no idea who these people were until you mentioned them. I still don't know who they are.
I don't think it matters, to be totally honest. What matters is that you've had experiences that confirm what's been said. Only you're expounding on that. It's really interesting. I mean, Dolly mentions about there being a hard times coming too. But man,
But
that's
we
a
get
that's a
through it. I mean, the image they always showed me. The image they always showed me was they showed me the scene from what is it? What movie is that? The movie with Andy Dupree and Morgan Freeman. The Shawshank Redemption.
Uh
They showed me the
oh, sure.
yeah, yeah, they showed me the scene from the Shawshank Redemption. Spoilers of Andy Dupree crawling through the shit and coming out clean. They said that's what's going to happen to you guys. Once you get to
Mm,
the other side of it, you'll be fine. You just got to make it till there, and they want us to not freak out about that as well. Um,
mm.
I know. I just said there's a bunch of billions of people are going to die, not to freak out, but they want us to not freak out about it. I mean, because like I said, I want to be very clear on this. No one really truly dies. We just go back to where we're supposed to go. These bodies, these lives that we have, they're temporary.
Mm.
So that just want to be clear that there is very much an afterlife. There is very much another soul group. And these forms are just temporary. I know
Okay,
I'm sounding like
I have a question about this because I've always wondered this question, like, why is this life so important if there is an afterlife, right? And in the afterlife, everything's going to be okay and we're going to be fine. Why does it matter what happens to this body at all? Why does it matter what happens to this world at all? If unless somehow this world is also, I guess, connected in a way that affects the other worlds or the other dimensions or
they all
whatever.
do. All worlds are connected. We're supposed to be stewards of this here, and we're stewards of this planet, and we're supposed to experience stuff. And like I said, this is a school for the soul. That's what this planet is. Some planets are done with that, people evolving, and some people aren't. Our planet is not. So this is why it's a school and why every people value it. It's not just us that value this planet. I mean, I've talked to other ETs that were like, "Can you just like take it easy on the planet?" I'm like, "I'm not doing anything." They go, "Just pass it on." I'm like, "I'll pass it on." But the planet has value, and from what I understand, I don't have any direct knowledge from this. This is just from people I've been talking to that have had direct knowledge. Some of the galactic councils will always choose the planet over the inhabitants,
Hmm, hmm.
and then there are a lot of people who don't like that. So there's a lot of other stuff going on. Like I said, I'm not really up to date in the level of politics. I just have my experiences, do my art, and that's about it.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. I saw your art, by
I
the way.
I, I didn't mean to. Yeah. I didn't
I
mean to
have
overwhelm you. I'm
zero.
sorry. I know.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah,
It's cool. So
I just wanted to make sure people understood about the fear and don't giving into it, and that this bodies are not these are temporary. I know that sounds crappy, but that's what they are. They're for
no,
experiencing.
it's good. It's good. Well, I mean, at least for this conversation, I really appreciate that you were willing to have the courage to have the conversation on another platform. Um, my audience, I've got a my audience is good, man. I've got a great audience. I've kind of fostered a very healthy community of people. By the way, what's up, Peanut? Thank you guys for all being here for this conversation. It is much shorter than my normal conversations. Normally, David, I have 2 hour conversations with people. I can't do that anymore. That's why I'm not as consistent as I used to be, given my lifestyle and my work now and my family. It's just not possible to have the 2 hour conversations on a regular basis. But I feel like we have got to get into I have notes for this conversation. I'm going to take we're going to expand on some of the things, a lot of them. There's so much information. I feel like we just can't get it into this episode. So any last things you want to talk to people about for the
I'm open to it.
Okay.
I'm open to it. Like I said, next time if you could just like give me like a specific of what we want to do, I'll make sure I stay on that one so I don't bow off, and we can focus solely on that one for that section.
So this was more organic. I wanted to introduce you to the audience. I wanted to get a pretty general idea of what's going on. Yes, next time I will have a list of questions that we can focus on, especially given that I have a better idea, the videos you sent me, but also the conversation we had this time. I'm going to post the link to the videos, to your other videos, interviews. I think it's important that people can look at what you've talked about before. I feel like there's more context that can be given to the audience, and also, guys, gals, in the chat. Next time I have this conversation, I will give you a better heads up. And if you have questions, especially given that I'm going to give links to other conversations he's had, then that would be great to kind of get engaged and have more questions throughout the conversation. Right now, again, I just wanted a general. This is David. These are some of his experiences. Now we know what we can work with next time. All right, David.
Okay.
All right, David. Thank you so much for being here, man. I gotta get going. I got daddy duty, if you will. And this has been awesome, man. I do. I think that you're an honest person. I think you're telling the truth. I think that it's pretty clear that you're telling the truth. You don't have, you can clearly see there's no agenda. You're just talking about your experiences. You're telling them intelligently, clearly, and with a measured tone. I will tell you, I've talked to some whack jobs. We've Chat knows what I'm talking about. You are
They're out
far
there. Yeah.
you're far from that. You're not that, man. I don't think anybody thinks that at all. So, it's my Scott says he's now a David Purcell fan. Cool beans, man. Cool beans. So,
All right. Well, you have my number, and you can get to contact me when you're ready.
thank you so much, David. I'll catch you next time, my friend. All right. Peace.
Okay. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. I am so sorry it's such a short episode. I have to, again, daddy duty. Got a lot going on. I never, I didn't think it was going to be so soon that I'd have an episode. To be totally honest, I thought I'd have to wait much longer to kind of organize my life. Especially, I thought I was going to do this next year, because next year in January, February, I will hopefully have more time, given the some changes in my personal life. So we'll be able to have some more conversations. But there's a lot of good things happening in the world. I hope that. Hey, listen, I don't know. There's a lot we know that's been talked about, this upcoming event that's happening or potentially happening. There's disclosure that's happening in real time. We're watching it happen right now. Again, we're watching the drones over New Jersey and other places all over the world, including here in the U.S. By the way, Iran is having drone incursions as well. They have been since last year, at least that's been in the public that I know of. They may be longer, I don't know, but at least since last year, they were shooting at. There's a video of Iran. The Iranian military shooting at a light in the sky, completely misses everything. Who knows? I don't know. But they're not. It's probably not Iran. I think that the congressperson or the governor, whatever, that was claiming that it's Iran, he just wants war. As you heard, we're failing the test. I think David says we're not. I think that I will say that I hope David's right. I hope we're not failing. I hope that we are on the right path with the growing pains, but I don't see us. I have a more pessimistic outlook on how we're doing. A lot of chaos and violence and destruction, but there's a lot of good things happening too. And I really hope that the good things ultimately outweigh those terrible things. And with that, my friends, I will catch y'all next time. Love you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. Until next time, Dr. Doors out. Peace.
For 75 years, the military-industrial complex, with the help of the government, has told the world there's nothing to see here. Even after an initial admission of the truth, they sleep with a clear conscience under the blanket of national security. For 75 years, they have told us that we are crazy, kooks and shadow chasers. They have told us that our very perceptions are wrong. This gaslighting needs to end, because the implications are far too profound to keep from the American people and the human race. The implications are all-encompassing for the entire human race. We are not alone in the universe. Extraterrestrial, crypto-terrestrial, interdimensional beings. Evidence within our very DNA of an intelligence so far advanced from us that they may have influenced the direction of our evolution. Evidence of visitation from an advanced civilization. Not swamp gas or space junk. Not satellites or foreign adversarial drone technology. A higher intelligence that has been here, right now, on this planet. Sure, we can accept its new label, unidentified aerial phenomenon, but we will only accept it as a stepping stone to greater truths. Truths someone is clearly afraid of seeing the light of day. But that day will come sooner or later, with or without the Pentagon, or the intelligence community, or the military. Because all it takes is a few good whistleblowers to blow down this house of cards. Whatever comes of the 2022 report on UAP, the UFO community will be watching, and the disclosure movement is growing every moment. We are not alone.